Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of A to the K's WrestleTalk podcast. Here we are. There's me and Carl. Hello, Carl.
Hi, everyone.
So, as usual, we are looking at going through our This Week in Wrestling, in which we'll talk about the big four shows. Then we'll go on to our news and rumours, basically anything exciting we've seen or any random tweets we might have seen, anything like that. And then lastly, we've got a bit of hopefully a fun one anyway for you, which will be our sort of, not really a dream book. And how would you phrase it, Cal?
More like if we could book WrestleMania next year.
Yeah, so like a fantasy booking kind of thing. So we just thought we'd have a little bit of fun with that and sort of suggest how we'd book something. Potentially as mad as Vince McMahon or as good as who's good these days? Triple H? He's still okay with NXT, I guess.
Let's go with him.
But before we kick off with all that, let's have a little bit of a word from WWE's own Cedric Alexander.
WWE superstar Cedric Alexander here to ask you one question, or maybe many questions. Do you like wrestling? Do you like podcasts? Do you have YouTube? Do you have Spotify? Do you have any other form of social media where you can listen to podcasts? Well, then you should be listening to A to the K WrestleTalk. That's A to the K WrestleTalk. Listen to it because I said so.
Okay, thanks for that, Cedric. That was good of him to mention us. I always appreciate these celebs coming in who clearly listen to us all the time. I'm sure Ricochet obviously recommended us to him, so that's brilliant. Couldn't get any better. Right, Carl. So, do you want to kick off with the Raw results?
Absolutely, let's do it. So this week we had a returning face of Samoa Joe, who returned, but to commentary, which was interesting because I didn't realise he could talk. To be fair,
yeah, I mean he's not really known for his talking. Am I right in saying is this a sign that he's ready to come back-ish, or are they just going, well, we need to get some faces out there? Weren't quite sure what the reason was for having him suddenly there, because as we know, he was injured out when he was in the Rollins angle. So
I mean,
it's a bit of an odd thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, historically, when someone comes back on commentary, they're still kind of carrying an injury or they've just been injured. So it's weird for him to come back now, especially when he hasn't shown any signs of being a good promo or any decent kind of commentary experience ever. But that being said, I thought he did he did a pretty decent job, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, other than the slight sort of oddity of why is that? Yeah, I can't really fault him there. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a bit like, okay, it's like putting any sort of random wrestler without notice on commentary, just kind of out of nowhere. But like you say, as far as mic skills go, or commentary skills go, wasn't too bad really. Added something a bit different, and I don't. Who have we got now? I know we've got Lawler, but who's the? Can I never remember his name? The other guy on commentary for Raw.
Fuck knows. Shit. What's his name?
Sorry, I've put that in your head now. I honestly can't remember. It's not Tom Phillips, is it? He does NXT.
I don't know. Is it not Lawler, Tom Phillips, and the other guy whose name escapes me at the minute?
The other guy. Oh, is Tom Phillips on with them as well?
I think he is. I'm sure there's three of them.
Okay. This is how much attention we pay to Raw, guys.
Yeah, God knows. God knows.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so those guys.
We know them.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite interesting to see him come back since he's been injured, but a very strange way to bring him back into the fold on commentary. So
yeah,
interesting to see if that builds to something or whether it's just
Yeah, it might just be to keep him sort of fresh in our minds when something does come along. I don't know, but yeah. You never know. Could be a good sign that we're getting some. I say fresh faces. He's been there for a while, but when and I don't blame WWE for this, but with this whole COVID-19 thing, you're getting you really feel how much it's like the same faces every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can really feel nowadays that they're working on a limited roster. So even just to mix it up in that sense has been useful.
Yeah, definitely refreshing to see a new face. And yeah, as I said, I thought he did a really good job throughout the night. The first kind of segment of the night was MVP, who kicked off the show with the VIP lounge. He was apparently saying it was the only nightclub open in the world, but if you ask me, it's a pretty shit nightclub.
Yeah.
Because, it's not really a nightclub, is it? Let's be fair. It's just fucking that guy.
I mean, to be fair, it makes sense for him, I suppose. He probably is the only VIP in his own head. So, yeah, who else is going to be there with him?
Well, exactly. But, another kind of talk show segment to kick off a show. He brings out the 3 Raw Money in the Bank participants. So he brought out Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, and Apollo. Apollo Crews. Who knows what he's going by these days? But those three came out. And then, it was kind of it was a bit of a weird one, really. So no one really got a chance to say anything because MVP was kind of taking over. And then...
so no one really knows what they were going to say. I always look forward to hearing from Black, the incoherent ramblings of Black. That's a shame.
Exactly. It's some sort of emo shit that he comes out with normally, but he didn't even get a chance this week. So.
And I'll call it, Ray was probably going to mention Eddie. And I'll be genuine. I don't recall Apollo ever speaking, so who knows? He might have just done a backflip.
Well, exactly. But more on that as the night progresses. But before anyone could say anything, Zelina comes out with the Mexican theory. Nice. See how it's changed now from the Mexican medley. See that?
Love it.
Progression. But yeah, those guys come out and basically says that the three of them should give their spots up now, to Hair Crew, because they're the future. And if the future lies with the three that are in the ring, it's a pretty lackluster future.
Now,
so that
I know she's playing the heel, and I don't want to be a dick about this, but she's not wrong. Like,
I mean, yeah,
it's kind of like, well, Ray. All due respect to Ray, he's a legend, but he's typically one of these people who comes back for a bit of a stint, but he's not sort of a mainstay. He's just like a name now. He's a known name. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to be there to be on a regular card anyway. Black, I think the pair of us have no love for, and Apollo's been jobbing for how long? So. Yeah, fair enough. Totally agree with you there, Selena. As much of a heel as you're meant to be. Yeah, totally agree. Why are they in it? Why isn't it the Mexican medley? The Mexican theory.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, Zelina's done a fantastic job over the last few weeks, and as you said, you can't really argue with her. Which is interesting as a heel manager, because normally, her job's to come out and chat some shit around, how it should be them when they don't actually deserve it, but. Look who's in the ring and who's actually in this match, which is probably the worst Money in the Bank match I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yep.
You can't argue. So
yeah, I think that's probably what's making her so sort of interesting as their manager and as a heel. That there's like a hint of truth to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's almost like it's fucking annoying that you're right about this. But yeah, she's doing a fantastic job. She really sort of stepped it up in the last few weeks. And again, they've got such a prominent show on Raw now. This stable that's it certainly showcases her and the three. Well, everyone bar Austin Theory, who is kind of just there.
He's just there. He's just making up the numbers. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Considering what she's got to deal with and, the circumstances and stuff, I feel like she's there a lot, but never feels kind of forced or out of place or anything like that. So I think she's doing her job quite well. But, she comes out, says that, and then that obviously Rey Mysterio gets on his fucking soapbox then. It's like, well, sounds like you guys want to fight us. And then all of a sudden there's a 3-on-3 match, because that's how booking works, obviously, in WWE. And interestingly, I don't really have much to say about the match, to be fair. It was just one of those, it was there, it happened, it was a match, end of the day. But okay. Interestingly, Apollo Crews actually picked up the win over Andrade, as opposed to one of the other guys, which I thought was quite interesting. And it was nice to see Zelina, was absolutely fuming at ringside at the fact that Andrade had lost. So it's quite a nice little way to kick off the show, really.
No, yeah, totally agree.
Then that kind of led into, after that match, was a backstage segment. And then it was Andrade and Zelina being interviewed. And, this was interesting as well. I feel like they teased this a few times now. But Andrade was basically saying it was his partners that let him down. The previous week we saw neither of those guys wanted to get involved in trying to kind of take down Drew McIntyre at risk to themselves. And, now Andrade's here saying that, his partners let him down, and, those three couldn't beat him if it was a US title match one-on-one. And then, they kind of skirt off the screen. Then Apollo, turns out he can talk, which I was surprised.
Wow, he can talk.
I know, right? Exactly. But he came out and, it was a pretty decent promo, to be fair. He was saying the sore losers, he beat him. He's beaten once tonight, and he can do it again. He'll be able to beat them twice in one night. Apparently Andrade overhears this, so clearly didn't go that far then. Basically says, he doesn't deserve an opportunity. And then probably the biggest moment in fucking Apollo's career. He just he slaps the shit out of Andrade, and it was it was a fantastic piece of TV.
Oh,
to be fair.
To be fair, guys, if you haven't seen it, it's currently on our TikTok, and yeah, it's a hell of a slap.
It is a hell of a slap. Like I like watch this back a few times to see, like, you know, is Apollo slapping his leg or something to make the noise? No, he literally slaps the shit out of it. Andrade.
I mean, fair play, because there must have been a talk there where Andrade's gone, go for it. Just
yeah, man.
You know,
yeah. So you know, it was definitely something where I think everyone was just like, oh damn. And then obviously Zelina kind of says, because again, although I'm not going to be as critical as normal, because Zelina basically says, well, if you want the US title match, then you can have it. But that didn't bother me as much. You know, previously in the opening segment, it was just like, oh, everyone wants the match, we're going to have one. And they just kick it off right there. I feel like, you know, Zelina's Andrade's, you know, manager or representative, whatever you want to call her. So she kind of has the right to book the match and make the match on her.
It kind of has a logical bit of sense, because you imagine like the boring off-screen stuff, she will get that arranged as his manager. So it kind of makes a bit of sense, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It doesn't feel as random. So I take your points on that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, obviously they probably listen to our podcast intently and hearing how, you know, unsatisfied we have been with the whole kind of booking mechanics of late. So, you know, clearly they're starting to take notice now, which is you know,
I reckon that's exactly what it is. I reckon Ricochet's obviously mentioned us to a few people. Cedric's got involved. Lacey Evans has clearly got involved, and it's just sort of snowballed. Now management are clearly listening to what we're saying.
That's it. So
as these things happen, it's hard being influential, but we're there.
It is. You know, it's a tough, you know, burden to have, as being as influential as we are in kind of shaping the product of today in WWE.
Really,
so, you know.
Yeah. But they know we represent the fans, and that's what counts.
That's it. You know what I mean? So glad to see they're sitting up and taking notice. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so I thought that was like a nice little fun segment. And then ahead of the women's triple threat that they announced, which I was really looking forward to, actually. So it was they'd announced Asuka versus Nia Jax versus Shayna, which, you know, other than Lacey Evans, you know, they're the kind of legitimate threats to actually win the Money in the Bank. You know, we'll come on to the other participants later, but, you know, I don't think either of us think that those guys have got a chance, you know, other than Lacey maybe. But I thought this was quite exciting, really, to kind of put on TV, so I was looking forward to it. And then Asuka comes out and she cuts a bit of a promo around poor Kyrie, and saying around what Nia did last week. So interesting.
It seems like they are booking it, yeah.
Which is weird.
I mean, still adamant that wasn't a work. There's no way you'd put something that risky in.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
It didn't look like a work. You know what I mean?
You can't legitimately do that power bomb and intentionally fuck it up without running the risk of damaging her. There's no way. She's not got a neck of steel. There's no way they could have done that. So it's obviously an accident that they decided to work with. But even so, I don't know. It's we've sort of made our opinions clear on Nia, so I won't harp on too much. Like,
but yeah, I thought it was an interesting reference, the fact that they are kind of going with it as some sort of angle. But you know, Asuka was quite rightly annoyed about what happened last week to Kyrie at the hands of Nia. And she then kind of went on to say that she's fought Nia now for 2 years, which, has she? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really recall. I hope the last 2 years, but okay. She said she has tapped her out.
Maybe off screen.
Yeah, maybe. So she has tapped her out, which, you know, I'm pretty sure she has. But then went on to chat some more Japanese kind of shite before Nia comes out, as well as Shayna. But yeah, it was weird. So the match was about to kind of take place, but then Shayna pulled Asuka out of the ring. And started to like throw her into a ladder and beat her down, and then basically it was a bit of a schmoz. So the match never really happened, which makes sense because, you know, they're ultimately trying to keep all the women strong. As I mentioned, they're kind of the big threats in the title match. So it makes sense to kind of protect them, but at the same time, I was fucking looking forward to it.
Thing is, though, it doesn't, because like from a logistical point of view, yeah, it makes sense to protect them. Don't go ahead with the match because they've got big matches coming. But from a storyline point of view, it's like, well, she's pulling out the ring to do some actual damage to a match you've got booked and are promoting and so on. So I just don't like the way they're going with this Shayna thing of like, she doesn't care about matches. She just wants to hurt people. It's like, well, I don't know. this is going to get to a point where it's like, well, anytime Shayna's announced to be in a match, I'm probably just going to assume it's not going to happen and there's going to be some fucking about. So I was a bit disappointed that they went with this. Like I said, I can see from a logistical point of view why they did it, but I was a bit disappointed that they didn't have some level of match, even if there was some shenanigans once they got the match underway and it, someone deliberately DQ'd in that sense. But to just have this whole, I'm out to hear people stuff. I wasn't a big fan of it last week, and I'm certainly not a fan of it this.
Yeah, I don't know. It just I felt a bit cheated really because I was quite looking forward to the actual match itself, and then obviously it didn't really happen because of shenanigans. And then, interestingly though, I think they did a good job of making everyone seem strong, which is quite good. But it was Nia that was basically the one who was kind of reigning tall at the end, which I thought, I don't know, the way they've been booking Shayna of late, I thought they'd still go down that route. But interesting that they kind of pivoted a little bit and made Nia seem like the bigger threat.
I wonder if they're either they're trying to legitimize when Shayna does beat her, or they're maybe turning their focus onto Nia now, because it wouldn't be the first time we've seen somebody's heat just suddenly drop and that's them done for. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. I never take it that Shayna's going to be the push.
Yeah, I don't know. It's you can never really call it, can you? But I think it's going to be a weird match if Nia is the one that wins Money in the Bank because it's a ladder match and Nia's a shot. She doesn't seem like the most likely candidate to win such a match. So I don't know. It's a strange little booking mechanism, I think. But
totally
that being said, it did make me think. I am more excited now for the match than I was previously. So probably did its job.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. Yeah.
So yeah, that all happened, them shenanigans. Then the next kind of segment was Lashley in the back saying that the whole shit we've had to put up with the last few weeks and so on and so forth with this storyline. Lashley basically said that Lana's a distraction, and obviously she starts to get all upset by it and it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then basically he's like, well, because you're too beautiful and I can't concentrate, blah blah blah. And she seems to like lap it up and believe it. Then he obviously goes out to beat up Jobber of the Week, as he has been doing the last few weeks, without Lana there. But for me, I don't know, it felt really flat because, he would have beat that Jobber anyway, let's be honest. The times he's lost, he hasn't really lost to like jobbers. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you know exactly what's going to happen when they come out. Like, we can't remember the guy's name, so that straight away tells you. I'm guessing, like, did they even bother with an entrance for him now, these jobbers?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
There's no audience it's for, so I know we don't normally get to see him on the show, but I imagine they don't even. Are they just in the ring? I think, without digressing too much, I'm confident on Sheamus last week. They just sort of waited for Sheamus to do his entrance and then gently ushered the fella into the ring. Like that's how little of an entrance he got. Yeah. Where it's, I believe normally when you watch it live, you actually get to see them enter. But anyway, That was a bit of a digression. Sorry. But when it's that sort of person, you go, yeah, this is what's going to happen. It's paint by numbers. It's done for a reason. When you're trying to build someone up as a beast. But we all know exactly what's going to happen. So
that's it. I think if it was just building up Lashley as a beast, then it would have been perfectly fine. But the storyline at play here is that Lana is a liability to Lashley. But whether she was there or not, he was going to win this match. Like, it would have been more impressive if they actually put him against someone who was a legitimate threat and he ended up beating them on his own. I feel like that would have kind of sold the story a bit more. Whereas I don't think anyone was thinking the fucking Jobber 703 was going to, get the win here.
Exactly. It's, it hasn't really done anything for that. I don't know where they're going with this story. They totally digressed away from, I mean, they have to now because Rusev's gone. But they totally digressed away from all that shite to this sort of, he's happy with it, but he's not. And he can flip tires now. Okay.
Last week, what were they thinking? Honestly, they were smoking some shite then, I tell you.
When you look at a lot of the bookings last week, man, was it last week? No, it was last week, wasn't it? The Viking Raiders Carpool Karaoke was last week as well.
Yeah, last week, yeah. What the fuck?
It's like they just went, you know what, you can, if you win this competition, you can write Raw this week, and then some kid won it, and they just put a load of random shite together, and that's what we ended up with, because it didn't make sense to, especially to what we have this week and what we've had the week before. It was just random. It randomly fit.
Yeah, but I mean, if you give it its due, it wasn't named flipping tires, so I suppose it was better. But
Yeah.
You know, if I had to nitpick, it didn't make sense for him to be
flipping
such a
jobbers this time.
Exactly. So yeah, that was another one of them that we had to kind of sit through.
How long are we going to keep this going? Fuck knows.
Who knows? But then yeah, the next one I thought was a bit interesting, really, because it was a rematch from last week with Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. And I don't know, like last week I gave quite high praise for their kind of match. I thought it was really good, and I assumed that was the end to their story. But they kind of had a rematch again this week, and I don't know, it was a much shorter match. You know, it was still decent quality, don't get me wrong. You know, Ruby, I've said before, is a fantastic worker, and Liv's, you know, really coming into her own. So the match itself was fine, if not a lot shorter. But yeah, it was, I don't know, just felt a bit weird and out of place. But, you know, Liv did go over again. I feel like a finish. Well, exactly. And I feel like a finish was better this week. You know, she's now given it a name. It's now called the Oblivion, which I thought was quite good.
Nice.
You know, so I don't know. I thought seemed strange that they kind of repeated it, but at the same time, you know, it was still a decent kind of match. And the fact that
I suppose it still did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
You know, but like you say, that we've had this match already, and with all due respect to this week, because it wasn't bad by any means, like you say, but we've had this match better last week. So yeah, it did its jobs, but yeah, it could have been a different opponent. I don't know what opponent you put it. I'm mulling it in my head now. I don't know who you'd put it against. It wouldn't really matter as long as she got the win and got to sort of carry on that bit of dominance. But it just seemed a bit needless.
Well, exactly. And I think, to be honest, they probably don't know what to do next with it, because, you know, they followed up with a promo that felt quite kind of real, but at the same time a bit, you know, bewildering, where they interviewed her after the match and she basically said, like, you know, she's just trying to figure herself out, like all kind of girls her age. And, you know, then it was, I don't know.
I feel like they're trying to segue away from the sort of suggested lesbian thing with Lana. So they're like, oh, I'm just trying to figure myself out because I'm going to totally ignore the lesbian thing. I think that's what's gone on there. But why didn't they consider giving people what they wanted and put it in the Money in the Bank?
Yeah, I mean, fucking hell. Like, you look at the people in there, fucking...
There are people, plenty of people in there who could come.
Well, I mean, Dana Brooke, we already know, you know, the other kind of participant we'll come to on the SmackDown results, but, you know, there's at least two participants there who, you know, quite rightly, you think Liv has earned enough to kind of go ahead of them and actually make her way into the match. But
and here's the thing, WWE, we're not bothered about perfect balance. You know, if we had one less SmackDown person and another Raw person for the sake of having a more legitimate participant, we're fine with it. Didn't have to be someone from SmackDown.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a crime, really, if she doesn't, you know, feature on the pay-per-view, because she has been a little bit of a breath of fresh air. So it's you know, as you said as well, I feel like other than Lacey and, you know, maybe Sasha, because I think we're both over Bayley by this point, and it's no massive offense to, you know, Carmella or to Dana or to any other girls. You know, Naomi they don't even really use, but the SmackDown Women's division just looks like a bag of shite compared to Raw's at the moment.
Totally agree. And the trouble is, and again, like you say, it's no offense to Dana Brooke, Carmella, or Naomi, because it's more of a booking thing. Like, they are jobbers at this point. They're known as jobbers at this point, and you can get out of that and you can be booked storyline wise, but not just suddenly thrown into a pay-per-view. It doesn't work like that. Like, none of us believe you're going to win. Like, and it'd be a weird shock if you did. So, like you say, it makes sense to go for a stronger division in Raw. Really strange setup.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing finally the whole kind of Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott thing's over with now. Obviously, fucking Sarah Logan can't get involved because she's been sacked.
But you see, is, to be honest, I wonder sometimes whether this is like she's had to go against Ruby Riott again because the idea was that she'd take out the Riott squad and that would be it. So one week was meant to be Sarah Logan and the other week was meant to be Ruby Riott, because as the rumor had it was that Sarah Logan was meant to be in not this week's but last week's Raw, and she was meant to participate match wise and didn't. Understandably, because of the situation. And I don't know whether that's her saying no or someone else, like the management wise, going, no, you're not doing it. But it never happened. But I think that was originally meant to be the point, that said Logan would be one of the. It's purely theory on my part, but would have been. And it, from a booking point of view, it makes sense. She's pulled away from that group and she's made a point on both of them. But sadly, we can't have that, so we'll have Ruby Riott twice.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just a weird match, I think, and the promo afterwards didn't really give me a sense of kind of knowing where she was going to go with it all. So strange.
Yeah.
But I hope that they just do something with her because they've done a good job, and she's really lived up to expectation. Hey. So yeah, fingers crossed to do something with it. But yeah, bit of a strange one. I'm interested to see what she does next.
Slight side note: have you ever seen her doing dares with Lacey Evans?
No.
You should have a look on YouTube. Anyone who's listening should have a look on YouTube. They do that. It was, I think, when they were on the same roster, so they're probably a little bit old now. But it was about. I think the gimmick tagline was "Live Your Life," and but she did just at random times she'd be like there was one where Lacey Evans was listening to a song and Liv dared her to just sing it out loud as she could right now in the middle of public area, just little bits like I was challenging you to jump into a river or something like that. But just nice little amusements. It's nice to see another side of Lacey Evans as well because she's always in character. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, just if you're interested, if anyone's interested, have a nosy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to check that out myself. Yeah, so fingers crossed Liv goes somewhere off the back of this, but interesting considering the Money in the Bank situations. I'm not really sure where it's going to go. And then next, fucking hell, so this was painful. So Nia had a promo backstage, and she showed not only is she shit in the ring, but she's shit on the mic. So this was a really bad promo. I don't know, basically kept saying, no one can tell her anything about her actions. She can do what she wants. So-and-so can't tell me. So-and-so can't. And it was just, it was so bad. I just wanted to shut the fuck up. And then she finished off with some weird little shriek. And I don't know. It was really bad all around.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah,
not good. I don't know. She needs to just kind of keep her mouth shut, continue to be like a dominant worker, but, not a reckless one. And then I think she'll be fine.
This is the problem WWE always have with, and I mean absolutely no offense, Nia, if you're listening. When they go, let's book a big woman, right? Because they always want to book a big woman the same way, because they have no idea what to do. And again, they've sort of booked her because of her size and her stature in the roster. So they don't care if she can wrestle. They don't care if she can speak. They hope that her stature alone will be enough. But the trouble is, and again, without sounding, I don't think it sounds sexist, but slightly sexist maybe, is from a behemoth point of view, when we're watching a show where you can see people like the Big Show who can rely on the fact that he's fucking huge, she looks smaller, so we don't get that. Do you know what I mean? She's big compared to the women's division, but it's not like a Jesus. Do you know what I mean? But it's just sort of the way, I don't know. It's typically the way. That's why I often joked the last few weeks. That's same thing with Tamina on the other side. They're interchangeable, the pair of them, because WWE booked them the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I mean it's fair, and neither of them can speak either. So
yeah,
it's very true. But yeah, so that happened, and it wasn't good. Then the Viking Raiders had a segment. So this time, apparently we're meant to take them seriously this week. So last week they were doing carpool karaoke, eating a big fucking turkey leg, but now this week they're fucking really angry, really serious, basically saying that they're next in line for the tag titles and, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know. I thought it was just really, I mean, don't get me wrong. I prefer this kind of promo from them than obviously the shite of last week. But this just goes to show the 50-50 booking of WWE, in my opinion, where one week you see one thing where they're fucking like a comedy duo fucking, eating turkey legs, driving around in a car, whatever. And then this week the serious badass Vikings who, you're meant to feel kind of legitimate. And I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
No, I totally agree. It was a real sort of change up from what they did last week. And this is what we're used to with the Viking Raiders. Last week was weird. Everyone was like, well, okay, are they becoming a comedy thing now? So this was more typical of the Viking Raiders, and it would have worked for me last week. But seeing it this week, right after they've done that whole stupid carpool karaoke, it was a bit odd. And as it happens, what they were saying, I'm with. Why not? It'd be a bit of variety tag team wise. There's not a lot of good tag teams on Raw at the minute, especially like Authors of Pain and like are out, aren't they? So why not? Why not have them in the tag scene and go up against the other guys? So yeah, I'm all for them sort of booking towards that. But yeah, it was a bit bit of a strange sort of change around. Yeah.
Yeah, just weird, I think. I mean, it was good, weird, but I just think, like, you know, last week shouldn't have happened, and then it wouldn't be such a weird, like, abnormality this week for it to go back that way, but weird.
Yeah.
And then next was a match where Don't Hinder Jinder, baby.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal is back.
Did you ever think there'd be a time when you'd be excited about that? 'Cause I was genuinely happy to see this guy.
I was as well, you know. Do you know what, though? That being said, they did ruin it because they did announce him prior to the commercial break, and I don't know what it is at the minute. They don't just let people fucking come back. They have to spoil it some way, whether it's on social media, whether, you know, fucking 10 minutes before. Just let it happen. Just let his music play, and everyone will be like, whoa. Just, I don't know.
They wouldn't want you to miss it.
Well, exactly. But I don't know. It was nice to see him back. I think it was good as well that they didn't kind of piss around with him and turn him into like a fucking Punjabi playboy kind of fucking stupid thing or anything. He was back, and he was, you know, the kind of legitimate threat that he was previously.
Yeah, I was really happy with that. I hate when they try and sort of book. I particularly hate when they try and book gimmicks based on nationality for starters. Do you know what I mean? And I hated all that, like when the Great Khali interfered, because, you know, they're from the same place. You know, they're all the same region, isn't it? Let's go with that. I hate that kind of shit. So I was made up to see him, and I was made up to see that it was like, just come back, good match, looking strong, no fucking about with any of that gimmicky shit.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of landed really well. It was literally just a decent kind of squash match that you want to see from someone coming back who, you know, has been a previous world champ and is a bit of a beast.
This is the thing. And at the end of the day, I wasn't on board for him being champ the first time. I'll be honest with that, right? And that was because it was probably ill-timed. And I think it was down to the fact that WWE they were trying to push that, like, look, we've got an Indian champion, you know. But this time around, like, again, because it feels natural as a story, I'm totally on board for him having a shot at Drew. Don't jump straight into it, but if that is inevitably where it goes, because they've got that previous connection between each other and they can work off that, it works so well for me. And I feel that that's where they're going with it, and I really hope that is where they're going with it.
I mean, yeah, if they go that route, I am all for it, to be fair. I feel like Drew is going to need a really, really strong heel. I think those two, with the history that they have, you know, they could do something pretty decent there with it. So
yeah, and as we've seen, I know, unless there's been a big change, I know Jinder's not particularly great on the mic, but we know that Drew can sell this. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so who knows where it goes? But, you know, happy to have him back. Then they cut to a backstage segment with Caruso was out there trying to ask Andrade about the US title match, and Selena basically cuts her off and says, you know, she'll never ask him a direct question again. Everything comes through her. So clearly she is, you know, taking back the reins of whole being the boss. And, you know, if Andrade is going to lose, then she's going to do what she can to just not, you know, see him distracted or anything, which I thought was really good. And then, you know, they have to push the Garza lazy man thing. Lady man thing.
I just didn't want to get up. Just sat there the whole fucking time.
But yeah, so he basically comes up again. It's like, you know, she's such a professional, blah blah blah. But, you know, does she want to get better acquainted? And obviously, she's really fallen for it. So, bit of an interesting one, I think. It's more refreshing to see someone go for like a commentator or something backstage as opposed to one of the women's wrestlers. So I thought it was quite a nice little spin on it, to be fair. And they are really pushing this Garza ladies man gimmick. So
yeah, and to be fair to them, you know, it's really difficult to push it when there are no ladies about. So they've had to get a bit more creative, because typically before now he was just pestering women in the audience. Hopefully planted there, or he might have just been an actual sex pest, and they were just like, fuck it, leave him to it, he's fine. Let's
not forget the beautiful looking camera lady from the previous weeks.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, that's what her job is.
There to work the camera. That's what she was there for, pictures.
So yeah. I thought it was fine. It kind of did what it needed to do. Got Zelina back over as a really good heel manager, and, you know, kind of progressed the whole ladies man thing for Garza. So fair play, decent segment. Then they went on to Andrade versus Apollo. So after he bitch slapped the fuck out of him earlier in the night, Zelina booked the match. And I feel like Zelina was really strong here as well. Some proper old school vibes from her, I think, as like an old school manager.
It does really tweak your nostalgia, doesn't it? It's like she's doing it the way it was, like, we've not seen it in so long. Like,
that's it.
Like you were saying, I think it was last week you were mentioning that like she's managing more than one client, and that just makes sense. But it's something that they haven't done in a long time. Everything about the way they're putting this across as her as their manager is. And I know that they obviously are leading to some sort of heat between the team. But again, I'm even intrigued how Selena will deal with that. She's got clients who aren't getting along now. Is she going to carry on managing them all? I don't know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I feel like she's really like kind of become a star over like the last few weeks, more so than anyone in her stable. Like she's really stood out, like the commentary stints and the backstage segments, and even at ringside, like in this match, she just brings something.
When this started, Andrade was probably the bigger name or the bigger draw, and that is certainly not the case now. So it's really interesting to see, because like you say, she's the name, she's the person you recognize, she's the entertainment on the night. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it also helps as she's a Stone Cold Fox, but that aside, she's doing her job well as well. So there is that. Totally
agree.
So, I thought she did a really good role in this match, and then the match itself I thought was really strong. Midway through, Apollo had attempted a moonsault, as you said earlier on the night, and he did do that in the match, and apparently tweaks his knee. Which I thought was interesting. Then he kind of carry on through all the commercial breaks and so on and so forth, but he kind of perseveres through. But then after attempting a top rope move, he looks to injure it really badly, and then the ref kind of throws the match out. So I think this was quite an interesting, different kind of angle, really, because they didn't have Andrade continue to beat up on it or anything like that. I think there was some kind of belief or questioning within the wrestling community of whether or not it was a real injury and stuff like that, which is
I believe he's no longer in the Money in the Bank, so I don't know whether it actually was a real injury.
Well, yeah, so off the back of this, they then obviously cut to something in the back slightly later on where he is on crutches. He's got his knee kind of iced up and stuff like that, and we find out he's no longer able to compete, and he's like crying and stuff like that. And I don't know, I mean, if there was some kind of legitimacy to it, fucking hell, you got to feel for the guy. He's been, he was a promising guy in NXT since he made his way onto the main roster. He's been kind of jobbing out. He was, fucking him and Shorty G were getting twatted by Sheamus not too long ago. Do you know what I mean? And then he's got an opportunity, and he's doing a big slap like that, and starting to kind of grow himself. And then if it was kind of legit or he was injured in some way, then it is a massive shame. But
no, I totally agree. I mean, if it's legitimate, because that is the best I've seen him in a long time. It's very easy to forget that he's really good in the ring because of the way they book him. But that was a really good match, and it's a shame. I don't even mind if it was a kayfabe thing. I don't even mind the way they did it and it was thrown out. But if that's a real injury, I do have a great degree of sympathy for him, because this whole thing was getting him well over.
Yeah, so I don't know, weird really, because he's now definitely out the match. So I don't know whether they're going to play it off some kind of storyline or whether it is actual legit. So it all remains to be seen. Then the next kind of segment of the night was the fucking street plebs. Started off as they usually do, where they were just annoying as shit, trying to do whatever it is they think that is cool or funny or whatever. Ironically, they say that the Viking Raiders are dressed like a pair of cosplayers, and I'm like, have you seen what you two are fucking wearing? You giant fucking jumpsuits.
Fuck.
But anyway, that set aside, they go on about how they can crack jokes, with blah blah blah. But I don't know. Again, is that what they normally do? Because if so, it's fucking shite.
Never heard a single fucking joke. I honestly, I can't listen to them for more than a few seconds because I tune out. Like, they're just so.
Well, do you know what?
It's like very boring in a very fucking loud way.
Yeah, like that is a really good way to describe it. And normally I am so on board, and I am just like, fucking hell, these guys. And they started off the same way again, and I was like, this is going to be shite. But then they kind of just went into like almost just normal mode towards the end, and they were like, we're not going to crack jokes. We're just going to actually say, we're free next week, so if you want it, bring it. And it was just like, fucking hell, so they can actually be normal, not annoying.
But that's
bastards.
all they need. That's all they need, right? I honestly think that he thinks sometimes that the way he's talking, his mic skills are like up there with The Rock. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. It's just fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
And I prefer that. Like, be normal, be a bit more raw, and like that. Yeah, straight away. Like, okay, now it feels like you're taking this seriously.
Yeah.
That works for me. But they're at kind of a point where pretty much anytime I see them, I'm annoyed. I'll be honest with you. Like, I even look for like little nitpicky things now. I'm like, why doesn't he ever look at the fucking camera? That's it. And it's only minor shit, but that's just where I am with them as a team. I don't find them entertaining even slightly.
Yeah, same. Like, yeah, can't agree more. So I thought it was interesting anyway that they kind of went a slightly different direction, but I'm still not sold on them. You know, they're still fucking bathroom break material for me.
Oh yeah, totally agree. But I hope to keep going that direction rather than well, I tell you what, let's just accompany Bianca Belair to everything she does, because did you know that, you're seeing Bianca Belair? Did you know that? Because if you didn't, we're gonna fucking ram it down your throat.
Okay, now.
The best kept secret since Becky and Seth Rollins, that.
Of course. So yeah, I don't know. Still a shit segment overall, but slightly more kind of refreshing the fact that they weren't doing their old shtick as they normally do.
Yeah, not paid by numbers.
Yeah. Then the next one was a match between our good friend Cedric. Shout out again to our pal Cedric. And obviously our number one listener Ricochet, who obviously must have told Cedric all about us enough to give us a shout out. But those two took on a jobber team called Everrise. And this, to me, is where I get a bit annoyed, because how the fuck can a jobber team have a fucking name and, dress the same and everything, and you've got a fucking main roster now, like tag team? It was still just Cedric and Ricochet. It pisses me off. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, don't be wrong. Their name Everrise, it sounds like some sort of medication, but yeah, even like as people already know, you and I are big on tag teams being tag teams, and we acknowledged last week that they started sort of dressing a bit similar, so you're getting that tag team vibe from them. But yeah, why not? Where's the name?
Well, that's it. And as you and I know, that if you take Everrise, you also get pretty big on. Anyway, so, but yeah, I mean, I think that was the only kind of annoying part for me, was just like, fucking hell, give them a name now, because we've said every week they're fantastic. They, and again this week they showed it again. They were phenomenal, and they're getting some good tag team moves together now, stuff like that. Just go full in on, go like all in, like no pun intended.
Hey,
just back them.
Go all in with Everrise. Thing is, like, and I'm not just saying this because obviously Cedric done the message for us there, right? Genuinely, I'm made up to see this with the pair of them. Like, they were both kind of falling into obscurity. Ricochet had a really bad run with that whole Brock Lesnar thing, where they give him 30 seconds, maybe slightly more. It did nothing for him. But then they're here now together, and they are a really good tag team together, and they're offering something to a division that is really kind of shit at the minute, especially Raw's. I feel like SmackDown seems to have all the actual tag teams. Like, Raw hasn't got much going on there. No. So I'm all for that. I hope to see them in the tag team title picture, because they're a legitimately good tag team. They work really well together. They're not just you sort of, all right, don't get me wrong, Street Profits aren't like your big fellas, but Viking Raiders are like the big fellas, the powerhouses. And then you got the Street Profits somewhere in the middle, and then you got these guys who can do the high flying stuff. You know what I mean? So it sort of works as well. I genuinely do want to see them heading towards all that, rather than just booking against Everrise.
Well, that's it. I feel like together, like individually, they're both fantastic performers. Together, they kind of complement each other, and they can pull off some of these fantastic maneuvers. But as a tag team, which I think is really, really refreshing in that division, when you have just got a bunch of fucking behemoths like in the Viking Raiders or the Authors of Pain or wherever the Raw kind of tag teams are. So I found it really good, and again they got another win, which I think they're starting to build some momentum now. Just please name yourselves. Yeah. Just fucking hell, like, it's so annoying. Just come up with something.
I mean, We could play name that tag team at some point next week if you want, Carl.
Well, I mean, I don't
I'm
want to
up
give
for
too
that.
much away for our third segment, but I've named them.
Oh, nice.
And
look forward
it's
to it.
not very good, but I've fucking named them because I refuse to refer to them by their actual fucking
Well-
Cedric and Ricochet names.
During the rest of this week in wrestling, I'm going to quietly try and come up with a name of my own, even though I probably won't.
Bring it on. I mean, it can't be fucking much worse than what I come up with, but at least it's a name. But yeah, so happy that these guys got another win under the belt and stuff. So I'm glad to see that they're like a legitimate tag team now, and I'm interested to see where they go. Then after the match, randomly MVP shows up, and he did say way back when he was going to be like more of a manager now and stuff like that, and he's made the really savvy business decision to back fucking Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink. So that's dead good, isn't it? Apparently they're going to have a tag team match next week against.
Yeah, because of course,
Cedric
like
and Ricochet.
we were all like, who's going to manage Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink?
Well, exactly, right?
That's what we were all wondering, and
it was a
luckily,
question that came
MVP's
us
picked them
us up at night. So,
yeah. So again, it's probably going to be a good match. I don't know why they're getting put against these sort of people, but if they do not win, I'm going to be fucking pissed off.
Yeah,
Can't throw MVP's name at it and make them lose. Bullshit. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting angry already.
I mean, that's good though, because previous weeks we've been like, oh, fuck Ricochet, fuck Cedric, the jobbers, they're not doing anything, blah blah blah. Since they formed this tag team, we legitimately don't want them to like lose now.
Yeah.
So
they've probably won me over. And don't be wrong, I've joked in the past, and I've give Ricochet more than any a little bit of shit, but they are like, he's always been a good wrestler. They've both always been good wrestlers, and it is genuinely good to see them in this. This is kind of where they belong, really, for me.
Definitely. And then yeah, so the final segment of the night was the much talked about contract signing between Drew and Seth. Don't know why every time now there's a pay-per-view there has to be a contract signing,
But only for one random match, because you
Yeah.
don't want to sign them all. Because
Exactly.
they could have a show of just signing the fucking contracts for the matches if they did that.
Exactly. So yeah, so they have to have it. And Jerry is out there basically blah blah blah, going to be this, that, the other, Money in the Bank, bigging it all up. Bigging up the fucking Money in the Bank match more than this match, which I thought was weird.
Nice one, Jez.
Regardless. Drew comes out, and I say it every week, and I'm not sick of saying it. I do love Drew. He is fantastic. He comes out straight away. It's just no bullshit. There's no, we say it every fucking week now. He doesn't feel forced. He doesn't feel like, something's written for him. He just comes out and he's like, you know what, Jerry, you know how these things are going to go. I guarantee this one to go the same. It's probably best that you skedaddle, make some fuck off out the ring, sit down. He signs the contract straight away. He goes, go on, let's get it done in 20 seconds. You're the one who jumped me. Let's just get it done. And then, it's just fucking, he's the kind of guy, you know what I mean, in this kind of era of wrestling. He's like, he reminds me, he's got like flavors of Austin. Like not from a sense of like, oh, he's a badass, rebel without a cause, nothing like that. But he's no shit. He's no nonsense. He just comes out and he's like, yeah, fucking hell, come on, let's do it. I'm not asked.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're totally right. And but quite coincidentally, I saw a clip, like I want to say yesterday, the day before, of Austin in ECW when he was talking shit about WCW, and it like you say, not that it was like exact to like, oh, this is Drew all over, but I can see more of what you mean. Like, there's definitely shades of Austin there, because this was Austin in his younger, obviously ECW younger days, but yeah, he went fully against like Bischoff when he was saying about like, oh, please take me back and all that. Oh, that's what I should have said. But and it just that whole sort of promo was like, yeah, I can see where you're getting the shades of Austin there for Drew, because it not so much in his later days, but he definitely had that sort of banter about him, really.
Yeah. No, I thought I don't know. He's cool. Like in a world of WWE where no one is cool, Drew is cool.
I like that slight sort of fourth wall break he does.
Yeah.
Not in the blatant sort of, CM Punk kind of way where he literally goes, I'm breaking the fourth wall. I mean, like where he acknowledges that contract signings are a bit sort of played out, and this is typically how they go. Like that sort of thing I enjoy, because it's like he's not treating us like idiots as an audience. He's like, he knows we're watching him, for starters. He acknowledged that a couple of times. You've mentioned a couple of times that he's well aware of the camera, and it makes it all feel very natural and very real. And I like a lot of that quality about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's more his like demeanor. than anything else. Like, if you told Roman to go out there and be like, oh, tell Jerry to get out the ring and stuff, he'd be like, yo, I think you need to get out the ring because the big dogs, and it's just like, oh, it's shit. Whereas Drew's, you know what I mean? Drew's just like, you know what, pal, get out the ring because it's going to go pretty bad, so it's probably, best for it. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, so much
I
more
totally agree.
believable, and you get behind him.
And that's where you're saying, like, he's. I would be shocked if you find out he's been scripted.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it with Roman. You can feel how scripted it is. But you'd be very shocked if you found out Drew was reading from a script. You'd be like, what? And that makes him a master fucking actor for selling it as well as he does. But no, there's no, like you say, it's all just too natural. He's definitely got some mic skills on him.
Yeah. So, he comes out and he's like, he's trying to get it over and done with straight away as quickly as he can. Seth has obviously other things in mind. So he's like, well, he doesn't want this, he has to do it. It's not about Drew. It's bigger than both of them. It's just the fact that Drew isn't a leader and Seth is a leader and he's the light in the darkness, blah, blah, blah. Doing his really good heel kind of Monday Night Messiah shtick. But, I don't know. I really like this segment. I feel like they bounced off each other really well. Drew again was like, thanks, Seth. I think that was really, really enlightening speech that you gave me there, and things are really clear to me now. And you're like, you're starting to believe, like, what? It's like, it's really clear that you're full of shit. So another shit bomb that has been dropped. So I think they're on like 5 or 6 now. So definitely trying to fucking, breach the PG-13 to TVMA or whatever it is over there. They're definitely on the borderline of that.
Change networks and then it's all like this now.
Exactly. So
think of the children.
So yeah, he's basically saying he's full of shit and says, where's your followers, Seth? You say all this about how you're a leader, blah blah blah, but you haven't even got any followers. And
I'm kind of glad they acknowledged that because his whole faction kind of fell apart pretty quick.
Well, exactly. And then he says, under any circumstances, he's not going to let Seth win it. So, last time he cheap shotted him, he jumped him, but he better finish the job this time and go for the throat because of Money in the Bank, he's going to go for his. And I was like, ooh, shit. And then,
oh, shit.
There's some shit. And then, Seth says, Money in the Bank, the big picture is going to become clearer, which I thought was an interesting line. So I don't know whether there's going to be someone else who gets involved in his little fucking Monday Night Messiah, fucking whatever shtick that he's got going on. But I thought that was interesting. He was like, it's going to become clear.
I mean, it could be God. We've had that before.
Yeah, Vince McMahon versus God, one of my favourite storylines.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, but then, you know what, the best thing of the whole night for me, this felt like something straight out of the fucking Dark Knight, was after the contract was signed, Drew just fucking slammed Seth's head off the fucking table. He bounced off, you know what I mean? It was like literally like the scene where Batman does that to the Joker in the Dark Knight. I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then obviously it starts to get all physical and stuff, and then Murphy shows up, so it turns out he's got at least one follower left.
Yeah, so he's got one buddy.
Hey,
I'm here all week.
But yeah, so he attacked Drew. Then obviously Seth is kind of hugging him, saying thanks, my brother, blah blah blah, and then uses him as a fucking pawn as he jumps out the way while Drew claymores Murphy instead. So yeah, I don't know, great segment overall, nice way to end the show. Didn't feel forced, didn't feel contrived, and I wasn't really that keen initially on the whole Seth and Drew thing, but I feel like they are doing more and more each week to kind of make me invested and bring me into it. So all in all,
I think your point. I think it was always going to be a good match, but they're doing some great efforts to actually sell you on the build to that match. But they're both good in the ring, aren't they? So it was never going to be rubbish to watch or anything. But yeah, in terms of selling it, they've certainly done a much better job in the last couple of weeks of it now.
Yeah.
I
think for me,
just as a slight segue, because I'm curious, because it's come to my mind. I am not a massive fan of the Claymore.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted your feelings on that, because as a finisher, I think it's a bit naff, if I'm honest. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I see where you're coming from. It kind of feels like a little bit of a, it's like a big boot or something like that. But at the same time, it's almost got like RKO qualities about it, where you can hit it from anywhere. It can be like a surprise
from out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I don't actually mind it that much. Like, I know it's just a kick to the head, but other finishes out there. You got Hogan's leg drop. You got The Rock's people's elbow. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's still kind of. I mean, it's put it this way, it's better than the fucking Superman punch.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. But is it as good as the worm?
Oh, what about the caterpillar?
Good point. It's a good point. Who did it better? That's another segment for another week.
But yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. It's not the best, but at the same time, it's like an impact finish, which I don't really mind. So
I suppose one of the reasons I brought it up is just because, like, obviously they sort of build into like Claymore country and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just like not overly sold on the Claymore, but it's a big draw, isn't it? It's a big thing. That's his move, and that's what they allude to all the time. And Claymore country and this, that, and the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just sort of came to my head, and I thought, I wonder how you actually feel, because you're obviously big on Drew. And yeah, I was just curious how you felt about his actual finisher.
Yeah, like legit, I don't really mind it. I think it's more the fact that he can just hit it from anywhere and he doesn't have to set it up. I know he does the whole 3, 2, 1 countdown thing, which, you know, I'm not massively keen on, to be fair. But
yeah, but I mean,
if you look at something like Liv's, like Oblivion that she's launched, it's a kick-ass move, but we're gonna know that's coming every single time she does a fucking Irish whip. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit like in that
your
regard,
point, like with very similar to the RKO in that sense, where they don't have to signpost it, but they kind of do.
Yeah.
Like Randy always done that whole snake thing where he hit the mat and acted like a fucking cobra or whatever. So you knew the RKO was coming, but similarly, he could also just blindside somebody with it. So yeah, it has a very similar quality in that sense, where he might signpost it a lot of the time, but like you didn't see that Claymore coming to Murphy. So yeah, okay, I'll give you that. And to be fair, I suppose it's, I don't know, I'm thinking about it now. I might be talking myself out of not liking it yet, but like it's not far off like a super kick or something like that, is it really? And I always love Shawn Michaels super kick, and it's still a kick to the head, isn't it? So
exactly. I mean, that one's signposted to fuck. He's literally fucking bouncing the ring for about 10 times.
Yeah,
different stomps. You know what I mean? So
why is he stamping his feet?
Exactly. You know, apparently it's music. Who knows? But yeah. So for me, I would say this was a much improved Raw over last week. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because I think it was much better. There were, the stuff that normally like fast forward material or stuff that pisses me off didn't piss me off as much. And I feel like, we had the Jinder return, which I was really like sold for. We had the whole Liv thing again, where she's continuing to be a star. And then, I feel like the kind of contract signing thing, really delivered again. So for me, it was a 3.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've put it as a 2.5 myself. And I probably don't have as much legitimate reason for that. Like you've sort of quite thoroughly explained your 3. But for me, I probably just keep landing on the fact that like there's not enough for me for 3 hours worth of TV. There's not enough that I liked, and I can't disagree with anything you've said. Everything that worked really well, and there was a lot more good stuff out of this than there was last week. But I don't know, it's still 3 hours where I'm like, So yeah, it stays at 2.5 for me until the like start doing a bit more with that time, I suppose.
That's fair.